Do you want to talk about the craziness at the end of the fourth quarter before we dive into the basketball?
Let's do it.
What the hell?
What the
hell was that?
What is going on?
John Collins pulled a Latrell Sprewell. A little bit.
Yep, a little bit.
I mean, it was not his own coach, but the opponent's coach.
Correct.
But that was okay. And I think a lot of people on Bulls Twitter that I saw were wondering the same thing. How after all of that fracas, and then, okay, let's watch the tape. The Bulls were assessed 2 technicals.
Yes.
One to Torrey Craig for instigating or, escalating the situation, whatever the ref said when they were explaining it. And then one to Chris Fleming, Bulls assistant coach. And then 1 technical given to John Collins.
Yes.
So after all of that, where a Jazz player is getting up in the grill of a Bulls coach on the Bulls bench, around the Bulls bench, the Jazz get a free throw out of it, and somehow the player who made contact with an opposing team's coach was not ejected?
Yeah.
What?
Yeah, I'm confused, very confused about that. Like, I thought that was a given, honestly, when we were sitting there watching it. We were just like, you can't touch the coach. Like, you just can't. You can't put your hands on the coach. And I know when he was pushing him, his hands started on the chest, but they ended up right here close to the neck here. And I thought that was a for sure. When you watch that on the replay, like, oh, yeah.
1,000%.
You're out of there. You cannot be in the game anymore. And they were like, nah, it's a tech. I watched them kick out dudes for way worse than this. Way smaller things than this. Like, literally yelling. I've seen them throw people out. Like, he literally touched. You can't touch a coach. Like,
Vooch got a questionable flagrant 2 a couple games ago. It was a hard foul in the paint, but it was just like
and
ejected.
Yep.
And I mean, as you said, Will, when the league reviews the tape of what happened tonight, John Collins might be looking at a suspension. It might only be a 1-game suspension.
Sure.
But a suspension, but did not apparently, according to tonight's officiating crew, warrant an ejection.
Yeah, I don't know what the rules say about it, but I've never seen that happen where a player puts his hands on a coach's neck. And like, I agree with you. He wasn't like trying to grab him by the neck. Sure. Like, that's kind of what happened.
It ended up there, man.
Yeah. You see like ticky-tack things get escalated. And like, remember when Jokic got ejected for like just saying something?
Vanilla Chill in the comments just brought up that exact point.
Yeah, I mean, it's just, and like a lot of those get rescinded by the league the next day.
Yeah.
To me, this feels like one that what you're talking about, Dave, which is that it's probably going to get elevated to a suspension or a major fine. I mean, that is just because in those situations, like it's the coach's job, not the coach's job, but oftentimes the coach is the one who gets in between guys and like separates the, so he was just doing that.
Unless
and then
you're
all
Jeff Van Gundy, but yeah.
Holding on the leg.
Yeah. I mean, and then all of a sudden he's getting a technical foul. And ultimately the Bulls ended up winning, but it actually, because the Bulls got 2 technical fouls called against them to the Jazz's 1, the Jazz got a free throw out of it. They got to tie the game at the free throw line on the other end. So that was an insane sequence. And yeah, I mean, competitive, exciting, entertaining stuff. But like that just, I was stunned that Collins was not ejected and
stunned,
fined, and probably suspended. I mean, that was wild.
That's the word, stunned. Go ahead, man.
I mean, Connor saying nothing beats the Tim Duncan ejection where he was just sitting there on the bench. Yeah, that was just Joey Crawford being. And again, like whether it's that or in the Bulls game against the Nuggets, the one time we get to see the Nuggets in Chicago a season, the refs eject Joker because he just had a little back talk to a ref for not calling a foul. Like, NBA refs have gotten really in their feelings recently, and they're giving techs. Was it DeJounte Murray who just had a tech given to him by Tony Brothers the other night?
Just because.
Who went over to talk to him during a timeout, and he like ignored Tony Brothers, and Tony Brothers gave him a tech for ignoring him?
Yes, and they rescinded it the next day.
You dishing out texts for players yapping at you, and now also dishing out texts for players ignoring you?
Like, there's no line.
What are we doing?
Like, how can the players know what's okay and what's not? There's really no line, bro. Like, if you're like, okay, well, great. I've seen it the smallest things given a technical, and then the biggest thing not given a technical. So where do I fall? Yeah. You know what I mean? In line with that. Like, we know y'all calling on the hard fouls and, things like that. But like you just said, you can get it for yelling at a referee or saying the wrong thing to a referee. But for sure ones, I thought, were contacting the coach and putting your hands on the chest and up around the neck. Like, that should immediately be like, dude, you got to go.
And that, I mean, like, I'm glad they got it under control because for a couple seconds there, that looked like it was on its way to being a melee that they couldn't keep under control.
Correct.
That had some, malice at the palace palpitations going on for a few seconds.
It did.
And half of me was like, ooh, are we about to watch some crazy shit?
You got a little excited watching that.
I did.
And you saw what happened. Like when Sexton fouled him, I stood there, I was like, that's right on the Bulls bench was the first thing I thought in my head. And I'm like, well, I'm sure there's some chirping going on. I didn't think it would turn into that, but I thought it was going to be a little chirp happening. And Torrey Craig, for sure, who I think is going to play tomorrow now, like, you got to put him out. Or he might get suspended. Who knows? I don't know what's going to happen tomorrow, man. Who knows? But he clearly wants to be back out there on the floor. But, if DeMar ain't tripping on it, I don't think you should be tripping on it. But I like the fact that he still said something to him. I don't like the fact of what it turned into. Mm-hmm. But, yeah, man, it's a fine line with all of it. But the bottom line is you touch a coach, you should be off the floor. I really think that's the fine line for me, man. Lagoon of the night has to go to Coach Fleming. It's got to go to Coach Chris Fleming. It's got to. It has to. My God. He was, as Matt says, he was red-assed. He's, man. That dude, man. It was wild to see that. Just to see the assistant coach like that, and it was still, you couldn't tell if he was worried or wanted more.
Yeah.
That's the thing. After he got choked, I was like, is he concerned or is he like mad focused on, I'll see you in the goddamn locker room,
When the broadcast cut back to him after the fray had died down, Will pointed out that his face was as red as his Bulls pullover, like, zippy thing.
He definitely pointed that out. Man. Red.
Face.
See red. See red Chris over there, man.
All silly like the mayor.